You're listening to Podcast PXN, PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo. Let's do this.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Podcast PXN, episode 85. I'm Rashan, aka Ro, and I'm joined today by the pride of PlayStation, Sean Babiak, and Dan, the Halo Man, Daniel Prindle. How you guys doing today?
Great.
Nice.
I like Dan the Halo Man. I feel like I've heard it before, but it just gives such bravado with it. Change that as your handle from now on, Daniel.
Yeah.
I love it. I just haven't thought of a better nickname yet, so I feel like, and I don't think I ever will. So that's just probably.
I don't know how you talk.
But big thank you to everyone listening and watching live. We record Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on YouTube and on Twitch. We're still on Periscope, it seems. Apparently, it's not supposed to still be working, but it is. So if you're on Twitter and you're scrolling through the Twitterverse, you might see our faces there. So every Wednesday at 8 p.m., we're recording live on those platforms. Just search up Podcast PXN and you will find us. The topic of the show today is Epic versus Apple and all of the interesting tidbits that came out of that. So we'll have a lot to talk about when we get there. But before we get there, we have the podcast or the PXN news of the week. And we're going to start off with the Sunset Overdrive trademark and what it could possibly mean. Maybe it is something, maybe it is not. But I'm reading from Game Informer. Liana Rupert writes, when Insomniac Games first unleashed the chaotic parody that is Sunset Overdrive, it was an Xbox One exclusive. The vibrantly colored, energy drink-fueled open world experience deserved a lot more love than it got, which I totally agree with, but back to the article. But it looks like it might finally be coming to the PlayStation. The trademark filing for Sunset Overdrive was spotted by Nibelian on Twitter, and looks to be registered on 04 or 26/21, which was this month or last month. The trademark is for the single phrase Sunset Overdrive, which some are connecting to the earlier leak that seemed to point to a remastered edition coming to PlayStation. But it is important to note that just because a trademark is filed doesn't mean that we're going to get a new game. There are a lot of different reasons why trademarks are filed, as the article writes. It could be protection against a third-party use, merchandising purchases, updates, and they also say, of course, a new game as well. But what did you guys think? Have you had any experience with Sunset Overdrive in the past? And do you think it is possible that we could be getting it on the PlayStation, especially with PlayStation now owning Insomniac?
Yeah, I think it's very interesting. I think that this definitely could mean we'll get Sunset Overdrive on PS5, which is super cool. I'm not sure how the original game's original deal is going to work out, because I know Microsoft published that and they put the money behind it, but I don't know how that works, if they're allowed to do that, or if it's like a Mass Effect 1 situation where they have to wait a certain amount of time before releasing it. But yeah, I would love to see this come back and Sony revive this franchise. And if you remember, Drew Murray went back to Insomniac Games, and he was the basically the lead guy on Sunset Overdrive. So would not surprise me to see him lead a team at Insomniac to kind of bring back Sunset Overdrive. So that'd be awesome.
So I think it goes without saying, I think I've said this on this podcast, that the reason why to own an Xbox One previously was for Sunset Overdrive. I think that was the best game of Xbox One's generation, in my opinion. And obviously it set the blueprint for Insomniac's Spider-Man with the mobility. Plus, it was a crazy game. It really was. It was like half Ratchet and Clank, but like adult kind of too.
Kind of Tony Hawk too.
Yeah. Like, it was such a fun experience. Like, going around that entire city, and even the verticality of it all too was such a cool experience. I did actually just look it up. It is Insomniac that owns the IP. Microsoft does not own the IP whatsoever. So correct. Insomniac / Sony is fully within their rights to actually go ahead and go through this. I think it'd be a huge win. Honestly, I do. This was a huge letdown for people that did not have Sony, that missed this game that last generation. Who had Sony that missed that game last generation, because especially on Xbox Game Pass, where you can play it right now if you wanted to. Like, this was a great game, still is. I believe even what is it now? 7 years later, it still probably holds up. I'm not gonna lie, I haven't gone back to it in a very long time, but just knowing what my experiences are, I guarantee it still holds up. So to get a remastered, or even I don't, it wasn't even a bad looking game in any sense. So I don't even know if that needs to be a remaster, just re-release.
Yeah.
If this comes out on Sony, it's a huge win.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it does hold up. I think I might. I don't know when you guys played it last, but there was a brief time in 2017 or 2018. I think 2018, 2019 is when I played it for the first time on Xbox. I had an Xbox for a brief time during that time, and I loved it. And I think it holds up really well. And yeah, I would love to see it on PlayStation. I would definitely go back to it, get some trophies, just experience that game again. But yeah, it was fantastic, and I hope it does mean that it is coming to PlayStation, because
do you guys think if it like does come to PlayStation, because I know unfortunately it did not sell that well on Xbox One, and I think that's part of the reason why we didn't get a sequel.
Mm-hmm.
With Sony exclusive generally selling pretty well, and Insomniac too now being so heralded among their first parties, you think this could be setting up for a possibility of a sequel?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely gives it a second chance, right? Like you said, it'll sell better. More people will be able to experience it for the first time as well. But yeah, I agree. I think it could get a sequel. At least it'll help an argument for one.
Yeah.
But yeah, moving on to the next story. The Witcher 3 director leaves CD Projekt Red following workplace bullying allegations. So I'm reading from GameSpot, but the original article is from Bloomberg. I'm pretty sure Jason Schreier did this one. But Konrad Tomaskiewicz, I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name. It's a Polish last name, and I'm very bad at pronouncing those. But I'm going to call him Konrad going forward. Who served as design director on CD Projekt or Cyberpunk 2077, a game director on The Witcher 3: The Wild Hunt, has left CDPR, Bloomberg reports. The departure follows allegations of workplace bullying, which he was cleared of. So after months of investigation, he was deemed not guilty by the people investigating him. However, he chose to still leave the company, and coming from his mouth himself in an email, he resigned because of the fear, stress, or discomfort employees might experience while working with him. So he decided to leave and said that he notices that the people he works with don't enjoy working with him, and that he causes a little bit of, as he says, fear and stress with those around him. So he decided to leave as what seems in hopes of a better work environment for those who work there. But yeah, I thought that was an interesting story. Not guilty doesn't necessarily mean he wasn't, and vice versa. Like in all law and order stuff, we don't really know until the proof is there. But it's interesting because he himself says that he caused fear and stress in the employees there. But what do you guys think about him leaving? Yeah,
in terms of like the legality of it, not guilty, like you were saying, Roro, doesn't mean he wasn't, involved with something, because not guilty means that he wasn't, without a shadow of a doubt, doing something. So obviously it seems like he was kind of being a little hostile and a little bit, I don't know, tumultuous, I guess, towards his coworkers. And it's definitely a tricky situation when you have stuff like this. And I honestly don't know one way or another. I can't speak to any of it because I don't really know this guy that well. Obviously, CD Projekt Red has had a ton of issues with management in terms of like the upper management for, Cyberpunk specifically. So it's not surprising to see someone in a lead position have these allegations towards them, because obviously they've been having issues like this at the top of the chain, so to speak. So it's definitely not surprising. And yeah, I guess it's for the best of both parties that this is happening, that he's leaving, just because that would be kind of awkward anyways. Like you're kind of like in litigation against the dude, and then you're like, you have to work next to him. That'd be kind of awkward. But yeah, it is a interesting situation.
I mean, I would say, as somebody that does manage people, regardless of how you feel, your employee's perception is the reality. Right or wrong, depending on how you talk or how you treat somebody, that's how that individual or those individuals feel. So you have to do your best. I mean, regardless, everyone should know that life in the job world is all about politics in a sense, where you do have to do maneuvering and all that stuff. It looks like he wasn't, in a sense, adapting to the times while not necessarily qualifying as bullying in that sense. He could still recognize that his attitude and the way he treated people came across that way. And in that respect, I actually do have a lot of respect for somebody that can recognize that stuff. Regardless of what was in the end done and how he was making the other people feel, he at least understood that whatever he could do, he was not going to fix it. He was not capable of that change, so he needed to separate himself from it. But Daniel hit the nail on the head as far as CD Projekt Red in general with its turmoil. I know Cyberpunk 2077 has gotten a pretty good amount of patches. Still nothing that makes me want to go back from those 4 hours I played. And I didn't even experience like god-awful glitches like some people did. But I would definitely say they've pretty much fallen off as far as all that goodwill they had with Witcher 3 at this point. And the only stories you really hear coming out anymore is some sort of negativity. I mean, just the other week, they had a story about them still blaming Sony for their sales because Sony pulled them off that. And it's like, well, if you release a poor product, that's on you. Like,
Yeah.
that's like blaming Billy Mays for OxyClean if it didn't sell well. Like, all he's doing
Rest
is
in peace.
promoting it.
Rest in peace, Billy Mays.
I couldn't remember the British guy. I don't know what his name is. But it just that doesn't make any sense to me. So I mean, at some point, CD Projekt Red needs a win, and right now it seems like until they get some things figured out at that upper management level, you're not going to see anything coming down.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I agree. I feel like CD Projekt Red has a long way to go in terms of fixing their reputation. I was thinking of a better word for fixing, but that's all I got.
Yeah.
But I think they've got a long way to go, and I hope by the time they are ready to reveal their next game, they're at that place. And I think we talked about this before. I think they will get there. But like you said, Sean, like every time there's another news story, it's a bad one. And even when there's a good news story, a few weeks later, something like this comes out and it's like, oh, I forgot, they suck. But yeah. But moving on to the next story, Microsoft rather, never makes a profit on Xbox hardware sales. This is another tidbit we're going to be talking more about all the crazy stuff that's coming out of the Epic Games versus Apple trial. This is another little one that I thought would be a cool topic in of itself. Xbox is one of the biggest companies in the video game industry and has been around for years. However, it looks as though the company never makes profit off actually selling the Xbox consoles. One recent bit of information comes as a consequence of the Xbox vice president, Lori Wright, being called to testify in the case. While being questioned by Epic Games lawyer Wes Earnhardt, I think that's how you say it, Wright was asked what margin the company makes on its console sales. Wright said Xbox sells its consoles at a loss, and when asked why, Wright said the manufacturer focuses on delivering a gaming experience to more players, allowing the company to profit off subscription services like the popular Xbox Game Pass and digital sales. So I thought that was interesting that they are more focused on their service and their like ecosystem rather than actually selling the box itself, and kind of explains why Xbox doesn't show their numbers a lot of the time when they're talking about sales numbers and, hey, why aren't you showing how much you guys are selling? This kind of explains why, I think. But Daniel, Xbox, the Halo man, what do you think about this story?
Yeah, so before I go into my thoughts on this, I want to shout out Cover in the YouTube chat because he's chatting with us pretty good on there. I'm glad to see that, so thank you, Cover, for joining us. But my thoughts on this are interesting because obviously the console industry we know is almost always in the beginning of the generation, you're selling your hardware at a loss in order to get the hardware out there. And then the software and the subscriptions and all of that makes up for the sales that you lose on each console. So the interesting thing here is Epic Games is presenting this as evidence for their side of the case, because Apple doesn't understand that Apple makes a ton of money on the iPhone. They make profit, like a significant amount of profit on iPhone sales. They don't have to rely on store sales or revenue from store sales in order to be profitable. Microsoft is in an opposite position with Xbox, where they have to rely on those store sales. So Xbox store has the 30% revenue cut, which they need in order to fuel those loss of hardware sales. And that's where Apple was trying to say, hey, we have 30% cut too. Why is this not being compared? Well, it's not being compared because Apple's selling their iPhones at $1,000+ and making, I believe they make like a 50% profit on iPhone sales. I think
their gross margin is higher than expected retail margins.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's insane. It's insane the difference there. So that's why that's not in direct comparison to one another. And it's different than the Windows Store, where Microsoft just announced last week that the Windows Store is cutting their percentage to 12%, but that's because Windows is just an operating system that's on every consumer PC that's out there. It's not like Microsoft selling hardware for that store, if that makes sense. So that's where they're more comparing that, because they're saying, hey, the Windows Store is dropping to 12%, Epic Games Store is at 12% revenue share, and consoles are completely different. They're specific to that ecosystem, and iPhones are making a killing for Apple in terms of hardware. So yeah, it's very interesting, and we'll have, obviously, like you said, Roro, we're going to have a lot more to talk about from this whole Epic Games versus Apple debacle. But yeah, it's very interesting. Sean, what are your thoughts on that?
I guess I'm just surprised in a sense with Xbox's honesty, because it's like the first time that we've gotten Microsoft honest about their consoles. But two, like, I know you are correct. When we have console launches, they don't make a profit. But PS2 is famous for the amount of profit that it generated Sony after a few years, because everything dropped down in price. But the way that I'm taking that, especially because it's on stand, is never make a profit on their consoles, even after years being out. Or when Xbox cut the cord on the Kinect and no longer packaged that and dropped the price down, they were still losing money.
Yeah.
So that part was just surprising to me, because we always talk about like all three consoles. There's three of us. We joke around that we're all like that console's preferred place or something like that. But Nintendo, I would say, has like they would all be on the same level when it comes to exclusives. Nintendo just works out different ways to have their exclusives and their artwork. And I think Xbox does the same thing. It's just higher res type atmospheres and all that stuff. And it just surprises me that even with those games, they're still willing to take that loss on it. Now, the one thing I will say that came out of this portion specifically is the fact that they're never going to probably tell us exact numbers on Game Pass, but right there shows you the success of Game Pass right there, because it's in a court filing, essentially, or court hearing, that it has been tremendously successful for them. Microsoft is not a company that's not willing to dump certain aspects of what they're doing. What was it? Windows Vista is like the most failing of their operating systems, if I remember correctly. Like it was horrible, and they came out with Windows 10 pretty quickly comparison to their other iterations.
Yeah.
So they're not afraid to dump something that's not working. And the fact is, Game Pass is 100% working, regardless if they're not selling their consoles or whatever. It is something that has been successful for them. And it kind of answers too the question of all this first party stuff going exclusively to Game Pass day and date. It's not a bad move. It's something that is working for them. However that model does. I mean, we'll never see behind the lens as far as the financials, but we now know that it is not such a gamble for them to release things and also sell them at the same time.
Yeah, and I agree with both of everything that you guys are saying, and I think they're doing fantastic stuff with Game Pass, and all of their services, as we're going to talk about in the next story. A little stuff that they like to do for us gamers. Microsoft adds FPS Boost to 74 more games on Xbox Series X and S. So this comes, the story broke, I think, on the 3rd. This is when they announced it. Daniel, you brought this to my attention. I almost forgot to put this in here. So Microsoft is enabling Xbox FPS Boost mode on 74 more games today, which was May 3rd, bringing a total of up to 97 games that is getting this upgrade. Some of the new titles include Assassin's Creed Unity, Deus Ex Mankind Divided, Wasteland 3, and Far Cry 5, all moving up to 60 frames per second. And I love that. This is obviously just weeks after they announced the 13 EA games and the Bethesda games even before that. So they're continuing to do all these great moves. I love it. I wish we would get more stuff on like this on different consoles as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this is really cool. And as they said, over 97 games. I'm looking at the full list here. They got Alien Isolation, Anthem, Battlefield 1. They've got quite a few, and then that list is only going to continue to grow as time goes on, right? So I do see what they're saying with how they're making profit off of the time and effort they're putting into Game Pass and all their other stuff, because they're doing a lot of great stuff with that.
Yeah, I agree completely, Roro. And like one of the coolest parts about this new game drop of 70 some games is Assassin's Creed Unity is actually playable in a very good state. And like I say that jokingly, but Assassin's Creed Unity's co-op stuff was actually really awesome, and like that was something that I wanted for a long time as a huge Assassin's Creed fan, was co-op in the campaign to be able to play with one another. And now that we can play that at 60 frames per second on Xbox is awesome. So I'm super excited to kind of check that out again, and just I don't know, I just want to see that again and see it run beautifully. This kind of steps back to another point where you're talking about other consoles needing to do stuff like this for backwards compatibility. And the reason isn't just for backwards compatible games as well, because Mass Effect Legendary Edition, I just saw this earlier today and it reminded me of it. Mass Effect Legendary Edition is only coming to PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. So you play the game in backwards compatibility mode on both next-gen consoles. And the PS5 version of Mass Effect Legendary Edition can only go up to 60 frames per second, whereas Series X can go up to 120 frames per second because of the Xbox One supporting 120 frames per second, whereas PS4 did not. So PS5 in turn can't do 120 on this game because it's backwards compatible, if that makes sense. Which obviously that's not going to affect a ton of people, because not many people have TVs that are capable of 120 hertz. But for people like myself that are enthusiasts and have like all the newest technology in TVs and stuff, this is awesome because I can play Mass Effect in 120 frames per second, which is just insane. So,
Sean, did you have any thoughts about the?
I mean, you guys know how I feel about backwards compatibility. It's cool for preservation. I'm not a huge fan of going back and playing something unless it, like, especially for the first time. If I missed it, I missed it at this point. I mean, I try to capture what I can, but you know how it is anymore. I mean, obviously, I just played Control a few weeks ago, but that game I absolutely love. I mean, it's a cool offer. Don't get me wrong. I would say though, as far as Xbox, I really wish they would just kind of focus in on releasing some exclusives from their first-party studios. I know we have stuff coming. It just feels like it's been ages and ages and ages. PlayStation, even with their stuff not going according to plan, obviously, though they're outselling PS4 at the moment, but they still are having exclusives come out. Yeah. My copy of Returnal comes to me on Saturday, which I'm super looking forward to because I love House Marquee. Ratchet and Clank comes out in about a month. We don't really have any dates for Xbox exclusives at the moment, so that's where I would like them to have the focus. But again, especially for gamers that are trying to experience, a lot of people didn't experience Xbox One. We know that's actually true. That at least they were definitely a distant second place from PS4. So a lot of people did miss out on those games and getting those up-resed. Daniel, I know, is a huge fan of Mass Effect. The fact that he's getting the better version in the sense with an Xbox One is great to have for those fans. I just wish they'd focus on other efforts.
Yeah. Now, remember also that all their first-party acquisitions started in 2018, so it's going to be still a year or two before we actually start to see that fruition start to take place, because even many of the studios they acquired in 2018 already had games coming out, like We Happy Few came out for Compulsion. You had Obsidian with Outer Worlds, although that was a 2019 acquisition, but you see what I'm saying. It's going to probably be in another year or two before we start to see the fruits of that labor, I guess.
I'm impatient. Okay.
Moving on to our next story, Sony is working to integrate Discord into PlayStation consoles. PlayStation is now partnering with Discord, the popular online communication service, with a promise to bring the Discord and PlayStation experiences closer together on console and mobile starting early next year, end quote. Details on what that would actually entail are slim, and Sony's announcement just says that the two companies are hard at work connecting Discord with your social and gaming experience on the PlayStation Network. Whether that means a full-fledged Discord app coming to PlayStation consoles or a more limited integration like connecting a PSN and Discord accounts to more easily chat with friends off-platform has yet to be announced. I thought this was interesting because it wasn't too long ago where we were talking about whether Discord is going to be partnering with Microsoft or being acquired by them, and now they're going into partnership with Sony. As the article says, we don't know exactly what that is going to be yet, and I checked before the show, and right now you can't even link your PlayStation account to Discord. You can link your Xbox, you can link Steam and all those other guys. So it could be something as small as that, where it's just you're going to be able to link your PSN account now, and maybe they'll integrate a little bit more features, or it could be something like it says a little bit bigger than that, like a PlayStation or a Discord app on PlayStation. But what do you guys think that this could possibly mean? Do you think it's small? Do you think it's going to be a bit bigger?
It was a savage move by Sony to make it, because I assume they probably had some sort of influence when it came to a press release, because the first time I saw it was after talks fell through with Microsoft, Sony and Discord partner up. And it's just like like that is a headline to kind of, not saying it does for like gamers, but for casual people, it in a sense makes you think that Microsoft screwed up that type of acquisition, whereas we have no idea how that came to be or what was the answer in the end. But I just thought it was interesting that that's what they led with. But I mean, honestly, they need to do something more friendly, I guess I could say. I mean, obviously, Nintendo will always be down at the bottom of the barrel, but if you have the number one console, especially currently right now, 2 generations in a row, why are all your UI systems not number one as well? I get it, Microsoft is a computer company, UI is kind of their bread and butter, but you should be like excelling in so many different aspects that Microsoft isn't, and that is why they're number 2. It shouldn't just be because, oh, they don't have the games. So I think this is kind of the step in the direction for Sony to get there.
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, the Discord stuff for Sony's side of it. What ended up happening is Microsoft was in talks to possibly acquire Discord, but then Discord decided to do just another round of funding instead from the public. And what Sony ended up doing is they did a minority stake into Discord when they did that new round of funding. So that's how they ended up, getting a piece of Discord and coming to this partnership that's coming. And like Roro said, we don't have a whole lot of information of what this integration is going to be. I think it would be awesome if they actually do the integration where you can literally have Discord on PlayStation, like have all of your Discord groups and voice chat in Discord on PlayStation. But I don't know if they're going to go that route, because I actually sent this to Roro, this link back in 2016, maybe, or 17. Microsoft announced a similar thing, that they were doing a partnership with Discord, and it ended up just being like essentially you can log in with you can attach your Microsoft account to Discord. So like when you're playing Microsoft games, it shows up in your Discord game activity, and it has some other integrations as well that I'm not really familiar with, but I hope it's more of the former than the latter, because obviously I'd rather see, more features come for this integration than what Xbox has right now. So
yeah, totally. And like I said earlier, it's very possible that it could just be that, because right now you can't even link it at all.
Right.
So it could be something as small as that.
Yeah.
But it would be disappointing, like you said, if that's just it, especially with all this hullabaloo that at least I am making it out to be, because of the announcement. But look, we shall see. But some more PlayStation news, very small, but we could talk about the Ratchet and Clank stuff too, if you guys want to, if you guys were able to watch that. But coming from the State of Play, we got a little bit of an announcement that Among Us is coming to PS5 and PS4 with an exclusive new Ratchet and Clank skin. So to celebrate the integration, or the launch of Among Us on PS4, there's a little blue. What do you even call these guys? Like I don't know what to call them. Like space astronauts, I guess, but
non-imposters.
Non-imposters, yes. There's a non-imposter wearing a Ratchet outfit and his little buddy, a little Clank buddy next to him. So I thought that was really cute. I'm glad that it's finally coming to PlayStation. I believe that is the last place that it could be. It's on PC. It's on X, or it's going to be on Xbox if it's not already there. It's on Switch, and now finally it's on PlayStation. So I think that's awesome. Is there anything that you guys wanted to add about this, or maybe talk about the Ratchet and Clank thing? I thought it was beautiful. I didn't get to see the entire thing, but what I did see, it was like, it's insane. Just the level of quality and how beautiful that world looked. But
I don't know how, if you own a PS5, you don't buy this game.
Yeah,
I really don't. It is a must own for your PS5. It looks so much fun. The switching back, like that, there was a video with a boss battle, and the fact that you can switch seamlessly between different planets and use that to your advantage, whether it's like a pole in that environment that could like block a shot or something to that extent, like, and it's just done. Like you don't just like, oh, okay, let me wait for a loading time. No, it's just you're at another planet. The weapons, of course, it's a Ratchet and Clank game with some very bizarre looking weapons, which make it even more fun. I'm so stoked on this game.
Yes, I am completely with you, and I apologize anyone watching the live thing. I just realized the dog was chewing on my dining room table, and I was getting pissed off at it. Anyways, yes, I'm very excited. And at this point, I just want the game to come out. I want to play it because it looks so good. It literally is Pixar come to life, and how good it looks. And yeah, very excited for it. And Among Us coming to PlayStation is awesome as well. It completes the trifecta of all the platforms getting Among Us now.
Yes, finally.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe I should have made Ratchet and Clank the topic of this one, because I didn't see the whole thing, but what I did see was insane. Like Sean was saying, with the rifts between the portals, I guess, being able to pull it and then just instantly being on another level, essentially. And it's insane. Like there was a scene where Rivet like jumped down from somewhere and she landed in a puddle, and you could see like the little droplets spring off the ground and then land back in the puddle, and you saw every individual like droplet drop back into the puddle. Like it's insane. I remember when we were seeing the Spider-Man stuff for the first time, and we're like, there's no way that's gameplay. There's no way. And it is. And it's the same thing happening here with Ratchet and Clank, where it's like, there's no way that's how it plays. And we'll see when it comes out. But for the most part, that's how it's going to play when we're playing it. So I think Insomniac is continuing their winning streak, and I am all about it.
Yeah, they really can't lose.
Yeah.
And God knows how long now at this point.
Yeah.
Even before, when they were making Ratchet and Clank games, they went to Resistance, and I still say Resistance is a very competent FPS series. I know it'll never be on the Halo level, but it's still a very good series, especially the second one. But I couldn't tell you the last time I was just like, it's on that game. I'm good. Like, no, they're just bangers.
Good job, Insomnia. Keep it going. But moving on to another Sony story. Sony patent helps system that connects struggling players with quote-unquote experts. Sony has filed a patent for a system that would allow frustrated gamers to receive support from expert players. The patent was filed last week and is described as a system that allows connecting a player to expert help in real time during gameplay of a gaming application. Sony cites the reasons for this. It has increased video game complexity that adds an extra challenge for players. According to the patent, according to Patent Scope, the patent exists due to the possibility that a user may reach a point in the video game that is seemingly impossible to navigate through or solve, resulting in the player quitting the game because the user can find nowhere to advance. Essentially, the system would allow for an expert player to assist the struggling player and support them through challenging sections of a video game. So I thought this was very interesting if this ever becomes a thing. I know right now PlayStation has the cards system where I think they have their own little guides right now in PlayStation 5 where they're planning on doing something like that. You guys can tell me if that's a thing already. But what do you guys think about actually being connected to an actual person?
Yeah.
It's like when you're doing on a website and there's like, hey, I can help you with something, like those little chat boxes that show up. It's an interesting prospect for sure. But what do you guys think about it?
Yeah, it's definitely interesting, and it's kind of like in the dream of like game guides and like help and stuff like that. That sounds like it would be such a cool thing to have. I guess the question is like who's actually providing the help? Like who's on the other end of this? Like is somebody just gonna do this for free, or like I guess that's the only question I have is like how are they going to incentivize these people to provide the help? Obviously, to a certain extent, you can get people to do some stuff for free. Like I was a member of the Xbox Ambassadors program for a long time, which helped people like with technical issues and stuff like that. But now that I'm in a point in my life where I have no time at all, I don't do it anymore. But it's just like that's my biggest question with this. It sounds really cool, and like it definitely sounds like it would be a really neat feature to have, especially for like kids and stuff like that who may struggle to figure out what to do in a certain situation. It's just who's going to provide that help, I guess.
I guess I'm a little confused on who it's do something like that. Like, I don't know, if I ever get stuck in something, I go on YouTube or something. I don't know. It was a cool, like Nintendo Power used to do this stuff in the 90s and in the late 80s. Like, and that worked then because internet wasn't so broad. I just don't understand. I don't know. I feel like it takes much less time. Say if I was stuck on I was stuck on a puzzle actually recently in one of the games I was playing, and literally all I did was type in the game name and the actual puzzle that was going on, and boom, I found a solution like in 4 seconds. I didn't have to be connected to anybody. Talk to a stranger, I guess, to figure it out. I just had my answer. I mean, Reddit took care of this stuff a long time ago for us.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like the internet has a lot of the answers that we need for these types of situations. And like Daniel said, I don't know who's going to provide the service or why they would want to provide the service rather when someone else out there probably or has already done it. But and what's going to stop them from trolling people? Like it's interesting to see how this may play out if they do go ahead and do it. But again, it's just a patent, so they may never see the light of day. Just making sure that nobody else does it, I guess. But yeah, moving on to the next story. Stadia head of product has departed. Vice president and head of product for Stadia, John Justice, has left Google. This was first reported by The Information before Google confirmed it. We can confirm John is no longer with us, they say, with Google, and we wish him well on his next step. He joined Google in 2019, and he has yet to explain why he has left. But this also came before some more news of other people leaving the company, as noted by Reset Era, and discovered via LinkedIn profile. Stadia's general manager Sebastian Puel, head of creative services and publishing Corey May, staff UX researcher Jonathan Dankoff, and graphics programmer Pierre-Marc Brubre. I am not sure how to say his last name. It's very French. Another concept artist, and two more concept artists had left the company, and they're all going over to Haven Studios, which is led by is it Jade Raymond? I believe. Yes,
Yep.
Jade Raymond, who started that company after she left Google Stadia, and they're working on I believe a new PlayStation IP, or a new exclusive IP for PlayStation right now over there. So it's interesting that 6 people have left, or 7 if you count the director or the head of product, and 6 out of the 7 have gone over to Jade Raymond's studio to work on PlayStation stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, I thought that was a very telling story after the interesting news last week that a funny news story that we talked about with Google Stadia now introducing a search bar. But the hits just keep on coming, it seems, for Google Stadia.
Yeah.
Daniel, what do you think about these departures from the company?
Yeah, I mean, it's not surprising. Google, it's only a matter of time at this point until Google just pulls the plug and they're just like, nope, we're done. I feel like it may not happen soon, but it'll happen eventually, I feel like, at this point, because there's so much turmoil inside of, Stadia, and at a certain point, this isn't going to be profitable for Google. I mean, I'm sure it's not profitable now, but at a certain point, they're going to have to just cut their losses, because I don't think Stadia is the success that they thought it was going to be. But this is awesome that Jade Raymond is getting a bunch of talent to join her studio and work on PlayStation. Their first game's PlayStation exclusive, so very interested to see what that ends up being. I'm a big fan of Jade Raymond because she worked on many franchises I love from Ubisoft, including Assassin's Creed, Splinter Cell. I think she even worked on Far Cry as well. But yeah, very excited to see what their studio ends up doing.
Definitely.
I mean, it's not a surprise in any sense that Stadia is just, it doesn't connect with anybody, in my opinion. Like, I don't ever see any sites talking about, like, oh, did you plan on, like, reviewing things on Stadia or anything like that. I'm not saying that runs it, but I mean, when your media's not covering it, like, and game media it's a specific set of media that we have for ourselves. So it's like, it's a system that needs to pretty much go away. Google, nice try. Thanks for coming to the party, I guess, but there's not room for a streaming service at this point in time.
Definitely. I agree. I think it's only a matter of time before they decide to abandon it, or I don't know what they're going to do with it at this point. It doesn't seem to be going anywhere, and all the news that's been coming out of it has been very negative. So I agree. It's only a matter of time before we see its demise, I guess, to be very dire. But yeah. But moving on to the next story, it's just a little quick one, because I know we're getting a little bit late. But Nintendo has announced a Game Builder Garage that's coming on June 11th, which is essentially a game designing program. Build your own games, as they say, from the ground up, with colorful and quirky New Dawn, which I guess are the little characters that help you along your game development journeys. I thought it was really cool. I think it looks really accessible. It reminded me of Dreams, but obviously a very not dumbed down version, but more accessible. I love Media Molecule and what they've done for people who are very creative. But for me, every time even with Little Big Planet back in the day, I just couldn't wrap my head around the controls and how to understand to create stuff. Even though they do have pretty good tutorials, I just wasn't able to wrap my hand around it. But I feel like Nintendo would be able to help my small brain, like, wrap my head around developing a video game, as they cater to usually a younger audience. I feel like I'd be able to, understand a bit better with how to develop a game. And I think it'll be really cool. The price is only $30 for this, which is something you don't usually see out of Nintendo doing a quote unquote affordable game. Like, they're usually very expensive titles come out of that company. So I think that's really cool. But I don't know if you guys either got this chance to see this, or what's your thoughts about Nintendo doing a dream-like experience or dreams-like experience for their audience?
So I didn't see this until you had it on the show, but yeah, this is super cool, and even bigger. Like it's cool for like the younger kids, because like kids who want to grow up in the STEM field, or want to possibly be a programmer or work in the games industry one day, this is a great starting point for them to do that, because it kind of it gives you the ability to learn like the early stages of game development, and kind of associating this with this, and kind of gives you an overhead idea of object-oriented programming, which is kind of what games are based off of. That's the base level of it. But yeah, I love stuff like this. Like Project Spark was super cool back when that came out. Obviously it's shut down at this point. The game's still active, but the developer just ceased because it didn't take off. But stuff like this is awesome, and Dreams as well. So yeah, I love to see stuff like this, especially catered towards a younger audience that kind of gets them into this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, this generation's already been making games for about 12 years with Minecraft. Minecraft is a game that you make, more or less. I mean, Daniel has a very famous YouTube channel that has millions of subscribers where he plays Minecraft on.
No.
So he's always developing games.
No, I don't. No.
But I mean, it just brings me back to the day, especially on the PS1, where it's like RPG Maker. There's also a fight game maker and stuff like that. I actually remember having the fighting game maker. Obviously things have improved, but I don't know. I'm glad, Ro, you brought up Little Big Planet. Like, I like to play the experiences that are built for me. I don't like to create. I do the same thing with Super Mario Maker and Super Mario Maker 2. I download or play the levels that people have created. I mean, Nintendo did themselves the best thing when they released the 100 levels that they made that were hard as hell. Because it's like, okay, that's how I want to play the game. I want to see what other people create. I'm not creative in the gaming sphere.
Definitely. I saw a comment here on the post, which I thought was interesting, because Nintendo has a track record of suing or taking down fan games. It'll be interesting to see if people make like a Mario spin-off or something on their actual game, if they'll have an issue with that or not. But
Mother 3 is finally coming out.
Yeah.
Pretty.
Roro, like that fan game that we talked about a few weeks ago that was on mobile. That was a fan made game, right? I mean, just
that was the best.
Yeah.
But to round out the PXN news of the week, we're just going to talk about the Resident Evil Village early review scores, which are very good. GameSpot gave it a 9. Easy Allies gave it a 9. It's getting 9s across the board. The lowest score it got was an 8 from PC Gamer or PC Games and IGN and EGM. So yeah, a lot of people are very excited to play this game. Are you guys still in the camp of ready to get down with Resident Evil Village?
Yes, I'm very excited to add this game to my backlog because Master Chief Collection doesn't give me any time to do anything else. But no, in all seriousness, yes, I really want to play this. I really liked Resident Evil 7. Obviously, I'm a bigger fan of Resident Evil 2 Remake, like in the style of third-person, over-the-shoulder type Resident Evil, but I'll still be excited to play Village as well. And it feels like they are adding so much stuff to Village, and it's from what the reviews have been saying, it's hearkening back to what made Resident Evil 4 so great in terms of, the ecosystem that you play in and the world that you play in that game. So I'm kind of intrigued by people comparing it to Resident Evil 4 because I love Resident Evil 4. And I'm very interested to see how all of these new enemy types like werewolves and all of that stuff kind of factors into the whole equation. And I don't know. I just want to play a new Resident Evil game, be a little spooked out.
So I will play it. I'm obviously not going to be playing it day and date. I was a little late on getting Returnal, so that's the game that I'm most looking forward to because that's really right up my alley. But I will be playing Resident Evil 8. I do like the reviews are talking about the fact that there is a lot more action compared to Resident Evil 7, because I thought if Resident Evil 7, that last third had action, but the first 2/3 did not. So it was just a poor balance. And if they have a better balance between those two, like Daniel just said, number 4 had a good balance with the action as with the puzzles and all that and the horror elements. But that's kind of what I'm most looking forward to, is really seeing how they've evolved the FPS version of Resident Evil now.
Definitely. And as you both were saying, it's a bit more action packed, this entry, and I've seen people or the reviews saying, and other journalists saying that it's a less scary than Resident Evil 7, which is something that interests me. So I'm glad that it's less scary. So there's a higher chance that I might check it out as well. But yeah, that's the PXN news of the week. We're going to jump into the games we were playing. And Daniel, why don't you start us off with the game that you were playing?
Yes.
Halo Master Chief Collection.
Sean, you're so good. Yes, obviously I'm playing that, but I did play MLB The Show, which it's my first chance to play it since it came out. I haven't had a chance to play it, and I am enjoying it very much. I played one game last night with the Reds, and I got destroyed because it's been a while since I played a baseball game. I played a little bit of the technical tests when it was out, but not enough for me to be an experienced baseball gamer yet. But yeah, I got destroyed. But the interesting thing is, I thought this was kind of cool. They have like a retro mode on there where you turn it on and it's like old school gameplay of of the old baseball games from back in the day. So like the graphics and stuff are all still the same, but like the UI on the screen, like when it comes up home run, it's like an old style like home run, and like the announcers aren't there. It's just like the weird like home run and base hit and like that kind of stuff. It's just so funny. Yeah, I also almost threw my controller because I was like, why can I not throw to first? I'm pressing B because like the face buttons are normally where you would throw to, home, first, second, third, where they're in a diamond shape. So it's normally that. But I forgot in the old days of baseball games, you use the stick to point to what base you wanted to go to and then press A to throw it. So literally every base you do that in the retro mode. So that was like a learning curve. But I thought that was a really cool mode that they threw in there to kind of harken back to the original baseball days. So yeah, that's what I've been playing.
Nice. Sean, what have you been up to? Anything in the gaming space?
I have. I was timid on a purchase I did, Immortal Phoenix Rising, but I am actually very happy to say with the results, I am loving it so far. I'm probably about 20 plus hours in thus far, and it is probably the most faithful Breath of the Wild copycat that there has been. The open world is awesome. I mean, the ability to explore everywhere from essentially the get-go. You more or less have the same type of great plateau that Breath of the Wild did, and then you're off on your own to figure out everything. The enemy variety I've really enjoyed. The combat, too, is a lot of fun, as well as your upgrades. It's got a little RPG mechanics, but not like too RPG-ish. The story is actually really cool, especially if you're into Greek mythology. That was something I took a bunch of college classes on. I love Greek mythology, and they are not really, they're kind of nice to the gods, but they're not. They show like how truly like dickish the gods were and like how horrible of humans they would have been, but they were gods, so it didn't matter. The negative thing I will say is the voice acting is unbearable. It is bad. Everyone, whether you pick a female or a male, and every character in between has this awful Italian accent. It's so bad. The first time I heard it, I was like, well, maybe that's just one character. No, all of them have this horrible Italian accent. I'm just like, oh my God, this is why Zelda doesn't talk. Like it's bad in that sense, but I'm having a lot of fun with it. I have like 2 more spots on the map to unlock. But honestly, if you're looking for something that scratches your Breath of the Wild itch, it would be this game.
Nice.
I've been
Get
on
it
the
on the
fence.
Switch. Get it on the Switch. Do not
Okay.
get it on PS5 or anything.
Okay, I've been on the fence with that game for so long that I felt on the other side of no. I guess basically I fell off the fence. I forgot all about it. But it's definitely a game that has been slightly on my radar for a while, and I've always wanted to check it out. It's been on sale, and every time it's been on sale, I'm like, maybe I should get it, and I just never caved yet. But I've definitely been interested in. I think I'll check it out eventually. But the game that I've been playing, of course, Destiny. I'll talk a little bit about that later. But I've been in a very nostalgic mood as of late. As last week I said that I got a DS that only plays Game Boy games for very cheap because I wanted to play some Game Boy games again. I have yet to purchase one yet, but that is in the future. Probably going to get some Sonic Advance some Kirby games, and just some even more Game Boy Advance games I just never got to play. I'm excited for that.
Tactics Advance.
Yes, I have not. There's Advance Wars, Tactic Advance, a bunch of games that I just weren't my style back in the day that I want to go back to. So I'm very excited to talk to you guys about that when I finally pick one up. But talking about nostalgic mood, I've been playing Sonic Adventure from the Dreamcast on PC, and it's been a hot minute since I played that. I played it on GameCube actually originally, but yeah, that game is. I don't know if it's good, but it just brings back such memories that I'm like, I love this, even though I may not be enjoying myself completely, but it's just such a weird mix of nostalgia and frustration that I'm like, I love this. This is my childhood. And I got Sonic Adventure 2 as well, but for some reason it doesn't work with a gamepad, and it works with mouse and keyboard, but it does not work at the same time. Like it doesn't play well at all with that. So I'm trying to figure out how to, because there is a way to make the gamepad work like the Xbox controller, but it's not as easy as Sonic Adventure, which came before, which doesn't make sense to me. But those are the two games that I'm enjoying or trying to enjoy right about now, as well as Destiny 2, of course. Guardian Games is still going on. The new season got announced yesterday, and it looks freaking fantastic. I'm so excited for Vault of Glass to return and Transmog to be introduced, so that comes next week. But that's pretty much what I've been playing. Of course, the nostalgic stuff and my usual Destiny BS. So, but moving on to the topic of the show, Epic versus Apple. So, as we mentioned with the Microsoft story and talked about at the very beginning of the show, there's a lot of interesting tidbits that have come out of this. Apple versus Xbox, or not Xbox, Apple versus Epic court case, and we're going to start talking about a little bit of them. So the first one that, Daniel, you showed me earlier this week when it first broke was Sony's stance on cross-platform play with Fortnite. But just in general, as the article, I'll start reading it now. It's no secret that Sony has held back PS4 cross-platform play for years, but new confidential documents and emails reveal just how much Sony was against letting people play the same game with their friends on other platforms. Sony initially blocks cross-platform play for both Rocket League and Minecraft, despite Nintendo and Microsoft both enabling players to play across Xbox and Switch. The issue really blew up when Sony blocked Fortnite crossplay in 2018, and players were angry. It now appears that Sony may have been holding out to offset potential revenue losses. In the months leading up to Sony's decision to block Fortnite crossplay in 2018, Epic Games had pleaded with Sony to enable crossplay. Emails in the Epic Games versus Apple case reveal, quote, "I can't think of a scenario where Epic doesn't get what we want. That possibility went out the door, when Fortnite became the biggest game on PlayStation," said Joe Kreener, Epic's vice president of development. So I'm going to read from the email that was sent to, I think, Gio Corsi, or to PlayStation, and Gio was the one who responded, I believe. But this is what it reads. "We love working with PlayStation, and we want this to be a win-win. The longer this drags out, it will be less so. I can't think of a scenario where," I already read that, so I'm going to just skip that. "Here is what I propose. We give you the data you are asking for, plus marketing data ask. Epic deeply integrates Sony esports API into Unreal Engine 4 as an engine-level feature. We market and advertise it as a first-class citizen of the engine, maybe an E3 announce, and we support it in Fortnite. Number 3, we announced crossplay in conjunction with Sony. Epic goes out of its way to make Sony look like a hero. You get to pick the when, where, and how. Epic brands its E3 presence with PlayStation. Number 5, Epic's willing to explore more items. Maybe we commit to a game at launch of your next VR platform. PlayStation Plus stuff offer a unique character, which they already do. Epic extends the Sony company-wide Unreal Engine 4 license. So he ends with saying, let's make this a huge win for us all. Epic's not changing its mind on the issue, so let's agree on this now. And I guess I can just introduce what they responded with. Basically, they did not agree, and they wanted to show them kind of why they want to get paid for it. But yeah, Daniel, what did you think? I know you sent me the message and this article in general, and you said this is crazy stuff, and I agree. But what were your thoughts when you saw this news break?
Yeah, and it's interesting because a lot of the stuff that's come out, not a lot of it, but many of the things that have come out on many different facets have been confidential, that they were things that were not supposed to go public from the trials, but for whatever reason, the judge, I guess, didn't realize that, and it went public anyways. And this is one of those things that it was supposed to be confidential, and now it's public, and it's not a good look in my eyes for Sony, because essentially they're saying that their platform is more important than any other platform out there, and they're saying that they should be compensated for purchases made on the other platforms that Fortnite is available on, which is kind of absurd if you think about it, because Fortnite is essentially a platform now. It's not even just a game, because you have an entire ecosystem in there. You have your skins, you have your account. Your account is Fortnite. So Fortnite doesn't have to live on PlayStation. It doesn't have to live on Xbox. It doesn't have to live on PC. Like, Fortnite is, its own thing at this point. So it is interesting that they were essentially demanding so many things. And it seems like Epic was willing to essentially give them what they want to get crossplay out the door, because it was such an important thing for Epic to get crossplay out there. And they even, I think at one point in the email, I saw that they even said, like, we'll make you into the hero, like, we'll make you look like the hero. And it's like, man, that's and that's the thing that you don't see. You don't see that peek behind the curtain usually of what goes on behind closed doors. That's what many fanboys and people that are like crazy ridiculous and saying like hatred to one console or the other don't understand, is that stuff like this happens behind the scenes of your favorite platform. Like, I'm sure there's similar things that happen at Microsoft for Xbox, and there's similar things that happen at Nintendo for their stuff. It's just that we don't see that stuff, and this kind of pulls back the blinders to say, hey, let's not all be fanboys, and like, let's pull our blinders off and see like this happens all the time, and it's all about marketing. And so many people said, like, surrounding the Unreal Engine 5 demonstration, like, oh, they're showing this off on PS5, so that's the best platform and this and that. Well, now we're seeing another side of it. We're seeing like Epic is saying, like, we're going to give you these things to get crossplay out the door. And I think that's definitely a fascinating thing that not many, the average gamer doesn't know about, that actually happens behind closed doors. So very, very interesting.
Sean, did you have any thoughts about Sony's stance on crossplay?
I mean, good for them, to be honest with you. That's not me just fanboying. Regardless, in business, it doesn't matter if you're the hero or the villain. EA's been voted how many times the most hated company in America? How much money do they still make every single year? So it really doesn't matter. They called Epic out for Epic thinking that they are bigger than God itself, that they can control what consoles do, and they made them pay for it. Now, regardless if you think Sony's in the wrong, Epic's right in this, it should have been for the gamers. It didn't matter. Sony got paid, and as it was revealed, they're continuing to get paid. They still are getting paid for this. That came out too with the amount of money. The thing I will say is this shows a total, like, I'm sorry, the court system is going to be screwed here because there's no way Sony doesn't sue for this becoming public when this was not supposed to become public. Mm-hmm. And it just shows that the court system was not prepared at all for some sort of massive video game litigation because let's be real, Congress, government in general does not understand nerd culture in a sense. They all just think that we're all school shooters. That's in their minds. That's all they think that's what video games lead to. So the fact is that no, gamers also led to almost to the collapse of the economy. Thank you, GameStop. So it's like they're not are giving the respect or understanding that you have to be protective and private for this. And God, if I was Sony, regardless of the news that just came out and making you seem like you're the bad guy, you just made a buttload more money too, because that getting leaked was not supposed to happen.
Yeah, that's true. I agree for the most part with you, but like I get that it's a business, but at the end of the day, like whether it's a business or not, I still don't think that that's the right thing to do. I feel like there's still right and wrong, and yes, I agree that obviously they want to get money and as much money as they can, but personally, I still don't feel like it's right for one platform out of all of the other platforms that Fortnite is on to demand money from another platform's sales. I don't know. That's my only issue with it.
I don't think you're wrong. The issue comes from the fact that they're required essentially for this whole thing to go on. And what I mean by that is they're number one. It's like it's tough to say, like, I'm sorry, if the XFL actually did succeed, if the XFL did not have to deal with the pandemic starting as soon as their inaugural part 2 season came, and they would say like, hey, we're going to do these like events and stuff like that. NFL, you should do it too. Well, no. Why? We're number one. We don't have to do what you don't want to do. Like, I'm sorry if you don't want to then come to us, that's fine. We still got more people that are coming to us, even if we lose people that are coming to you. I mean, that's all. That's kind of the way that I see it. I know it sounds ultra conservative of me, and that's really offensive to me in my head right now. It's just how I kind of see that situation. I'm not saying you're wrong either, Daniel. I understand consumer centric, but the company is looking in the end bottom line.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree. Again, with both of you, I'm with Sean where I see both sides of this, and I agree that I think it's pretty gross that they did want the money and that they kind of put Epic in that position. But again, at the end of the day, Epic has a lot of money. PlayStation wants more of it, and as they said here, and as Sean just said, they're number one, and they have the most people playing over there. So why not ask for some compensation for being a part of this conjoined sort of ecosystem sort of situation? And with that, Epic, we also learned that Epic has made over $9 billion, or Fortnite has made $9 billion in 2 years. As a part of Epic's financial disclosures in the trial, the company revealed that over 2018 and 2019, its headline game, Fortnite, made $9 billion. So yeah, it's a lot of money, and it shows why they can, buy them all and give Sony the money and all this crazy stuff that has been coming out. But another thing that was revealed was some skins for Fortnite, which I thought was a little bit more fun than the other stuff that has been talked about. But some of the skins include Samus, Naruto, heck yeah, The Rock apparently, some musicians like Ariana Grande and Lady Gaga. So first of all, Samus, heck yes, there's a Nintendo character finally. I would love that. Naruto, heck yes, I would love that. And Ariana Grande, heck yes, I would love that. Literally, those are literally the skins that I would love to come to the game, and they're speaking straight to my interest. I love it. Any of those speak to you guys? Samus, Naruto, The Rock, any of those?
Only if every time you would kill somebody, Ariana would just say, thank you, next.
That would be great. That was actually good, John. I will give you that.
But poor Pete Davidson.
Yeah. Samus, I think, is the coolest one, and obviously we've already gotten PlayStation exclusive ones and Xbox exclusive ones, so I'm glad to see that we're finally getting a Nintendo character. So yeah, Samus, perfect fit too, I think, for Fortnite. So yeah, very excited for that.
Definitely. I hope these are real, and they should be because it's coming out of these leaks, but only time will tell, obviously. But another tidbit, Xbox thought Breath of the Wild and Metro Prime 4 will be releasing last year.
Yeah.
Another document, they talked about competing with titles such as Breath of the Wild 2 and Metroid Prime 4. And I, like many people, we wish that they were right because they haven't come out yet. And Nintendo hasn't really talked about Metroid Prime 4 at all. And earlier this year, they talked about how Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 still needs a little bit more time before they can talk about it again. So maybe they know something that we don't. Maybe they are further along with some of these titles, but it doesn't seem that way.
I thought we all were all like, it just seems so dumbfounding to me that like we as like a gaming community know that Metroid Prime 4 got rebooted in 2018, like completely different, started from scratch. Like, I don't know about you guys. I mean, yes, I was under the assumption Breath of the Wild 2 would come out last year. I was under no assumption that Metroid Prime 4 was anywhere close to being done. Like, I expected 2022 at the earliest for that game.
Agreed.
So I just thought that was interesting. Like you said, bro, maybe they knew something we didn't, but I never once thought that was coming out last year.
Yeah. I agree completely. I don't think that wherever this came from, whoever in Xbox said that Metroid Prime was coming out last year, I don't understand their logic either, because like Sean said, they essentially started over. I think everyone in the gaming world was hoping Breath of the Wild 2 would come out last year for a 3-year dev cycle on Breath of the Wild 2, but did not happen. Kind of like Horizon Forbidden West. I think people were thinking the same thing about that game, but seems like we're getting both that and Breath of the Wild 2 around the same time.
3 days apart again?
Yeah.
I don't know if you have any other tidbits that I may have missed from the Epic thing, but just to wrap up some more little tidbits. But Suny, the Epic Games CEO, believes that Sony's stance on crossplay could be illegal. He says Sony's interoperability, I'm not sure what that word means actually, or how it sounds, I'm sorry. No, restrictions have put both of our companies in an untenable position, adversarial to our customers. Many Fortnite players are kids, and their friendships are being torn apart by Sony's segregation of players on competing platforms. Frankly, we do not believe Sony's position is even legal. Okay, so yeah. I don't know if he's being dramatic, or
I would say it's a little facetious to use the language segregation on that.
Yeah. But I agree. I like we said before, I think it's a little gross to say the least, but illegal. Would you say? Do you think it's illegal, guys? What Sony's doing?
I don't think it's illegal. I just think that it's something that probably morally isn't right, I guess. Yeah. But
I mean, it's obviously like when I was defending Sony earlier, I'm not defending the business practice. I'm defending the business as itself.
Right.
I mean, it's not a practice that I personally would support, but I get a company going after the money while they can, essentially. Yeah. But I don't know what legal standing they would ever have to take Sony to court over crossplay, in my opinion. I mean, again, no lawyer or anything like that, but I don't see how they think they have a leg to stand on when it comes to that. You're beholden to that company's system.
Yeah. So I have one more thing to point out, Roro, unless you have something to add there.
No, I'll have a question for you guys after.
Okay. I have one thing to add, and then I have one question as well. Okay. So I can't even believe Gearbox was paid $146 million to secure Borderlands 3 as an Epic Game Store exclusive. Well, what?
Well, for only a few months, too.
Yeah, for 6 months. Yeah. Like, what? How is that even... That probably, like, covers, like, half the game's development, I feel like. Like, that's insane. And then my question to you guys is actually from Cover, who's in the YouTube chat. He asked this way earlier in the chat. It was right at the start of the show. Who do we think is winning right now, Epic or Apple, in terms of what we've heard from the litigation so far? Personally, I think it's probably too early to tell, but as far as like many of the arguments that are coming out of it, I feel like are in Epic's favor right now, but you just never know. There's still a lot of litigation to go, and lawyers being lawyers.
I mean, I would say early. You are correct. Early, way too early in the court to say at this point. But I would agree with your summation as Epic at the moment, only because Apple's coming out as less. They're coming out almost like dumbfounded. Like the comment that we talked about earlier about Xbox and them not understanding the market store as far as retail price compared to what they sell with their phones and all that stuff. Them not understanding how a console works. I know that's not exactly what they're saying, but that's kind of how we're all breaking it down. It just comes off that they don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like Epic's winning right about now, and again, too early to tell, as you both said. This is going to be, I think, what I read here. Let me just be correct on that. That this is going to take place over 3 weeks, and it just started this week, right? I believe. So we're still at the very early stages of it. So we'll see how it turns out. But my question to you guys is, at the end of all of this, even though we're saying Epic is winning right now, do you think it's going to stay that way? Is Fortnite coming back to the Apple Store at the end of this? What do you guys think about that?
Obviously, I think it's going to depend. Fortnite's only coming back to the App Store if Epic wins this. If Epic doesn't win this litigation, I don't see Fortnite coming back to the App Store. And obviously, that comes down to Epic not wanting to succumb to what Apple is doing, but also it may be Apple saying, no, we're not going to let you on here or give you your development tools back, because if you remember, they took away their iOS privileges, like for development privileges, like developers have certain privileges to get into their development kit and practice and test things out on early versions of iPhones and stuff like that. So I don't even think it'll happen either way or on either side of it in terms of if Apple wins this litigation. But if Epic wins, then I think we definitely will see the return of Fortnite on iOS.
I'd be surprised to see it come back, to be honest with you, just because, I don't know, it seems like a lot of bad blood's been spilt at this point. I mean, I could be wrong. It could be required to in some weird way. I don't know how you require a store to essentially sell a product for another developer, but that could be the end result. I don't know. The only thing I will say is that Apple needs this win for publicity's sake. Epic needs this, or Epic wants this win to Apple, basically, to show that they were once the little guy. Obviously, they're not a little guy anymore. $9 billion in two years.
Yeah.
But like the fact that they could, if they can stick it to Apple in the end, then they will look like more than just heroes, like essentially legends.
Yeah.
Apple will only be able to win the court of public opinion, and I don't even know if they can win that because of how much damage was already done by Epic through social media.
What's crazy is, like, not that long ago, Apple and Epic were in a very tight partnership with each other because Infinity Blade, which was made by Chair, who Epic owns, was like a big thing. Infinity Blade 2, and all that. That was like one of the pinnacle.
There's 3 of them. I love those games.
Yeah, those were like the pinnacle iPhone games, like back in 2010 or 2011, whenever those came out. And now we've made it to this point where they just are, mortal enemies.
Yeah, again, as I keep saying, I guess on this show with various topics, only time will tell, and I'm sure we will talk about it when that time comes. But that time will have to come before we talk about it. But you guys, is there anything else that I have missed that may have happened during the show that you would like to bring up here? Or we get to outro?
I'm good.
All right. Alrighty, well, thank you, gentlemen, for joining us, and thank you for everybody watching live. Cover in the chat on YouTube, I see you. Thank you so much for joining us. And anybody else, if you'd like to join us or listen to us after the fact, you can hear us on Twitch, on YouTube, but as well as podcast services like Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify, and Stitcher. Just search up Podcast PXN and you shall find us. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Sean. And until next time, later. Be greater.
Much love. Oh, that was good, John. Same time.
I hate you. Hold on.
Mario.
I don't know if you can.
Mario. It's me, the Mario.